Okay. Um, I imagine we'll have folks probably joining throughout, but we'll go ahead and get started. Thank y'all for joining us today. We're in July. I never know how that happens, but here we are. So thanks for spending a little bit of time with us this morning. I'm excited to share some information about our small business investment grant opportunity. Kind of do an overview, and then of course answer any questions that you guys have. Oops. And if I pause, it's just because I'm kind of admitting folks as we go. But we'll go ahead and get started. So um, today we're going to cover a few things in our short hour together. So I'll do just a tiny bit of background on Commerce's community reinvestment project. So, where all of this funding comes from for this opportunity. And just so folks are aware if they want to do some digging on their own and see what else is out there. And then I'll do an overview of the small business investment grant opportunity. We'll talk about like the requirements, scope, timeline. We'll look at the application and then the website page where all the information is housed. And then, of course, I'll provide any additional guidance on how to seek support for the application. Most of that is me. A lot of that will come through emailing me with any questions that you have. And then, of course, an opportunity to ask questions today. And either I will answer them or I will get an answer for you and get back with you. So just quick housekeeping items. So we are going to have opportunities for questions. If you're not asking a question, try and stay on mute just so it helps to limit some of the background noise. And then again, we'll have opportunities for questions if folks want to come off mute and ask them. And what's also helpful to us, if you're able, is to also enter those questions into the chat. That just helps ensure that we don't miss any as we're answering, and then as we're updating our FAQ, or frequently asked questions page that is on the website. It just kind of helps us house all that information to make sure we don't miss anything. And this presentation, you've probably got an alert when you sign on. The presentation is being recorded. So if you don't want to have your video on or anything like that, and then once it's recorded and processed, it will get added to the web page as well, just as an additional source of information, something that you can refer back to or share with folks if they weren't able to attend today. I'm guessing most of you have been to the webpage since you're here for this webinar and found that link. But just in case you found out about this webinar or got the link for it some other way, this link that I have here is to our webpage that has all the information for the grant. It includes questions, the link to the application, any relevant information that'll be helpful to you as you're applying or sharing this opportunity. Thank you, Anna. And then Anna's included the link in the chat as well. A little bit easier to click on instead of trying to write it down or type it on your own. So thank you. So before we dig in to the small business investment grant that you guys are here to talk today, I'll take a quick step back and just share a little bit about the community reinvestment project, where this is all kind of coming from. It's amazing, and there's a lot of information out about this right now. So I think some folks maybe information that you don't need, but just to provide a little bit of clarity. And then, of course, if y'all want to do some of your own digging and find out what else is going on and what other opportunities there might be for you, this website that I have here, which is from the Department of Commerce, this houses a lot of information about the community reinvestment project. So the full document, the different focus areas, different folks that are involved. So great resource if you want to dig in a bit more. I'm just going to do kind of a broad, thank you, Anna, do a broad overview just for a little bit of level setting to get us oriented. So the Community Reinvestment Project is a community design plan meant to uplift communities that have been disproportionately harmed by the historical design and enforcement of criminal laws and penalties for drug possession, otherwise commonly known as the War on Drugs. So back in 2022, The Washington legislature created the Community Reinvestment Account and set aside about $200 million to address racial, economic, and social disparities created by the historic design and enforcement of the war on drugs. And then the legislature directed the Department of Commerce, or that the Department of Commerce invest the funds into four kind of main focus or program areas. So that would be economic development, civil and criminal legal assistance, community-based violence intervention and prevention, and reentry services. And this opportunity is housed under that economic development piece. So again, the four kind of main focus areas under economic development, there's kind of four key initiatives, which include subsidized lending, financial assistance, outreach and support, and workforce development. This opportunity is housed under that workforce development initiative space. And within workforce development, there's kind of two key main initiatives under this piece of it, which is the Career Accelerator Incentives and then the Business Support Grant Program, which is specifically what we're kind of housed under for this opportunity. And it's designed to support Black, tribal, and Latine businesses with things like training, equipment, wage subsidies, and additional resources to help support lasting employment opportunities and business resiliency. And then for us specifically, of course, this is for King County. So these business supports, again, are meant to financially support Black, Latine, and tribal owned and operated businesses. For us, this is specific to King County, and really kind of help to provide opportunity for businesses in things like workforce development, skill enhancement, organizational growth, and economic mobility. So that all brings us to why we're all here today, or why you are here today, which is to talk about that small business and the small business investment grant opportunity. I just like to give a little bit of background because I know there's a lot of incredible projects happening and programs and in a few key different focus areas. So I like to just kind of help, orient folks with kind of the funding funnel, so to speak. Which helps provides a little bit of context on kind of like the requirements of the grant and what the focus areas are. So our grant, the Small Business Investment Grant, this is for small businesses, which includes nonprofits in King County, and you can request up to $15,000 for to invest into your business in a few different focus areas, which I'll dig more into the specifics, eligibility. We'll also look at the website page as well as the application. And then we'll have opportunities for questions as well. Timeline for the grant. So this opportunity was released on June 10th. We had our first application assistance webinar or virtual bidders conference on June 18th. And then we are here today on July 1st for our second and last application assistance webinar and virtual bidders conference. Last day to submit questions will be July 7th. And the questions that we've been getting through these webinars and that folks have emailed to us, those are all getting updated to the webpage in the FAQ or frequently asked questions section, and it's available as a download as well. So that's a great resource if you have a question. It may have been answered, but you are of course welcome to ask any questions that you have. Applications are due July 14th, which is a Sunday, by 11:59 p.m. So applications will close then. We are anticipating getting award notifications out to awardees by August 23rd. And then all applicants will be notified on or before September 13th about the status of their application. Before I start to kind of dig into the specifics of the grant, a bit more of the nitty gritty, are there any questions that have come up just on what I've kind of talked about so far? And if not, it's okay. I just want to provide some space. And I also, it's nice to hear someone else talk besides just me. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or come off mute. I'll go through some more of the specifics here, and then we'll have another opportunity for questions as well. So the objective of This grant, the Small Business Investment Grant, businesses in King County, again, that can include nonprofits as well, can request financial support of up to $15,000 for eligible services and expenses related to their business. Um, there with this grant, you can request up to the 15,000, and those who are awarded won't only just receive the financial support from the grant funds, but they will also get some additional support in the form of coaching, consulting, and or resource connections. And this is just to really help kind of support the long-term impact and sustainability for businesses and of these funds. Um, and there's a bit more of like the intentionality behind the grant, but really kind of providing a more holistic approach and support with our small businesses in King County. For eligibility, um, again, open to small businesses and nonprofits, since that question comes up a lot. Um, and then the small business piece, it's really just defined as an entity that has 50 or fewer employees. Businesses will need to be licensed in King County, so a city within King County. And priority is given to organizations that are at least 51% owned and operated by individuals from Black, urban Indian, tribal, and Latine communities. Those aren't the only communities that can apply, but these funds are prioritized for these communities. And grant funds can be used for activities and purchases related to things like capacity building and growth, sustainability, hiring, retention, and or staff training. And we'll talk a little bit more on the specifics of the application, because there's a couple of questions that ask folks to draw the connection between, what they're requesting, that connection to one of the focus areas, and then also how the funds could directly contribute to the organization's ability to kind of hire staff, support staff, train and retain employees, and or increase their workers' earnings opportunities and job quality. The funds cannot be used for working capital, land and building acquisition, or relieving existing debt. So for those that are awarded, those activities or purchases that they'll be using the grant funds for need to occur after they are awarded the funds. So can't go to, paying off any past due bills, past due loans, anything like that. I got a few more folks we'll let in here. Okay. The application is online. It's and again, we'll take a peek at it, and we'll also spend a little bit of time on the web page that kind of houses all this information. But it's an online application. It's a form that you can fill out and submit. There's designated questions, so some demographic questions, and then questions related specifically to the grant around what's being requested, how much, and then again, drawing that connection to those focus areas and some sort of workforce development connection. There are some required attachments, so things like a valid business license, a W-9, so we have that on file in case you are awarded funds, and then also a completed budget template, and that budget template is also available on the webpage as well, that can be downloaded. Some folks have had issues downloading the budget template. So if you run into any technical issues like that, please email me, and my email is on, I'll put it in the chat, and it is available on that webpage as well. So if you run into any issues accessing documents, uploading documents, anything like that, let me know and I am happy to assist. This here is the application scoring guide, also available on the webpage. And this can kind of be like a great tool or reference as you're doing your application, so you can see what's being scored, how it's being scored and the weight associated with it. So just another tool as you're kind of crafting your responses, and drawing those connections to some of the areas that the applications will get scored on. And so some of the logistical information for the grant, again, we'll go to the webpage where all of this lives. And Anna was wonderful enough to put the link to the webpage in the chat if you're looking at it already. But it includes, the webpage kind of includes everything. So the timeline that we went over, any documents that you either need to submit or resource documents that are helpful for doing your application. And then for a Q&A process, that is my email listed there. So any questions that we've received, those get updated onto our FAQ or frequently asked questions section on the website and as a download. So that is available to you. But my email there is if you have a question after this or something that doesn't get answered, this is the email that you want to reach out to, and I will reply back with an answer to your question or whatever guidance you're seeking for your application process. Once applications are submitted and the application period has closed, we'll do a bit of like a compliance review. So we'll review all the applications and they'll get vetted for eligibility and completeness. Those applications that meet eligibility and are complete will then go to our evaluation committee. The evaluation committee is going to rate those applications with the scoring guide that I just showed you that is, again, available on our webpage. And evaluators will include members of the local community organizations who serve Black, Latine, and tribal communities. Once the evaluation committee has done their scoring, they'll put forward recommendations for awards, and then those recommendations will go to our board for final approval. Once the board takes action and those are approved, all applicants will be notified of the decision. And then there is an appeals process. So within 7 days of receiving that decision or being notified of the decision, an appeal can be submitted in writing. And then there are going to be additional supports and resources. So for all applicants, those who are awarded and not awarded, because we'll have your email either through your direct contact with me or through the application process, you will get awarded of any of the future opportunities that will be coming through this funding. Like things that I know that are in process right now is we're actually working on a webinar series for businesses, and there'll be some other supports that will be available, but we will make sure to follow up with all applicants or anyone who's been in touch about this opportunity to make sure that they're aware of future opportunities that are coming out. And in addition to that, getting connected with workforce services that you might be interested in. So other supports for your business that are outside of this funding but are regularly available. Before I take us to the funding page and we look a little bit deeper at the application, do we have any questions? And I'll just take a quick peek at the chat and the Q&A and make sure I didn't miss any.
Is there a finite number of awards to be given out?
Great question. So we are anticipating awarding 30 to 40 grants. There is the potential that we will have another round of these types of grants or a similar type of grant. But for this particular opportunity, we're looking to award 30 to 40. Oh, and I see a question here. For a nonprofit org that has more clients, will the max grant amount, what will be the max grant amount? So yes, 15,000 is the maximum amount that you can request. You can request less if you want, but you can request up to 15,000, and it doesn't have to be for one particular activity or expense. You can request maybe part of your request is for equipment, maybe some is for wages, maybe some is for training. So it doesn't have to be one, but that max total is 15,000. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so we'll see how successfully I'll do this here. So I'll stop sharing for just a moment and get the web page and application pulled up. Here. Okay. Can everyone see the web page here where it says a small business investment grant?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. So the webpage that I referenced probably more times than anyone can count is here on our website. And you can navigate to it by going to our main site, and then it's under investments and then funding opportunities, and it's going to be the one at the top. But this webpage really houses all relevant and helpful information as well as the application. So there's a summary of the grant. So a lot of what we've covered today, the objective. Here you can see the documents. So the link to the online application, which is placed in several locations throughout this webpage, but link to the application, the scoring guide. This is the budget cost template that you will be submitting with your application, but it can be downloaded here. And again, if you run into any issues, please reach out to me and I'm happy to email that to folks as well if they have problems downloading it. Our frequently asked questions, which can be downloaded from here as well. And it's also included on the website here with some drop downs. There's also an informational flyer if you'd like to share this with your network or other businesses that you think within King County that you think might benefit or be eligible for these funds. And then we have a timeline again here. So everything that we went over in that slide, when applications are due, questions, as well as when we anticipate doing award notifications and notifying all applicants of their status. And then if you go farther down on the page, the recording for the last Virtual Bidders Conference, our application assistance webinar is located here as well. And the one from today will also get uploaded onto the site and be housed here as a support or something that you can refer back to. Any questions about the web page or any of the information that's housed here? All right, cool. And I don't see anything in the chat. So hopefully this switched over fine. Can everyone see the application now?
Yes, we can see.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. It's a more quiet group today. Our group from the last application webinar was lots of questions, lots of feedback. That's okay that we're a more quiet group. It is a Monday as well, so and earlier on a Monday. So this here is the small business investment grant application. Can be filled out here on the website. A lot of these initial sections is more of just basic business and demographic information. So you'll fill out your name, the contact name. So whoever this is that's going to be, your point of contact for this opportunity. Good contact information for them. You'll include your business name. If you have a business website or any relevant social media pages, those can go here. Brief description about your business, including what industry you're in and what services you provide. And it really can be brief. I've gotten some questions on, how in depth this needs to be, or if folks need to include like industry codes or anything like that. And it really just can be just a brief kind of simple description just to give us an idea. Year your business was founded, how many employees you have if your business has any, and if you don't, you can place a 0. Type of organization, whether or not you have a physical location, the city that your business is licensed in. And again, this grant is for businesses licensed in King County, so a city within King County. And then again, because the grant is intended to provide support to Black, Latine, and tribal owned and operated businesses, requesting some of that demographic information here. And then this is where we get into some more of the grant specifics. So your grant request must have an identified need that fits into one or more of the following areas. And you can just check all of the ones that apply. And again, it can be more than one. Oh, and I'll pause right here. So questions in the chat. So what is the total amount to be awarded overall? And Helen, was that for so the total amount for everyone getting awarded, not a specific application, but the overall grant awards?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so we're anticipating awarding 30 to 40 applications. So that total amount awarded overall will be, if all are awarded and awarded at full amount, around $600,000. Perfect. Thank you, Helen. And then should we count contractors as employees? So no, I would not count contractors as employees. Um, but there are some of these other application questions here where you can talk to kind of like your workforce benefit, or if you're intending to like use some of these funds to support with your contractors, or paying your contractors. I would just explain that in the application questions, but I wouldn't include them as employees. So great question. Once you've kind of identified the focus area or multiple focus areas, you'll put in the request amount in dollars up to 15,000. Statement of need. So this is just where you describe your need for the grant funds, what you want to use them for and how you would use them. And then again, just kind of doing that, creating that connection between what you're requesting and one or more of those focus areas. There's a statement of impact. So this is just a small statement on how the funds will support the growth and stability of your business and how you plan for the improvements, or really how you allocate these funds to be supported long term. So kind of like, what's your sustainability plan for however you plan to use these funds? Statement of workforce benefits. So describing how these funds will support the ability to hire staff, train or retain existing staff, and or offer increased earnings opportunities or job qualities. So this is why I like to give a little bit of the broader overview about the focus areas and initiatives of where these funds come from. So this is related to that, just making that connection to the workforce benefit. Um, and an example could be, because a common question that comes up is equipment purchases. Can we purchase equipment? Yes, you can. Um, so you'd kind of state what you wanted to purchase, what the need is, drawing it back to one of those focus areas. So maybe you need to upgrade some equipment or purchase new equipment that could help with your organization's ability, for capacity and growth, and then making that connection to the potential workforce benefit. So theoretically, you purchasing this new equipment will help you improve your operations and capacity, which will allow you to maybe retain your existing employees, or potentially offer new opportunities in the forms of hiring additional staff or providing internships opportunities or anything like that. But just drawing that connection to how using the funds could provide a workforce benefit as well. And then there's a statement of community benefit. So describing if the use of these funds will have a positive impact on the local community, and or if your business engaged or collaborated with the local community in deciding where the funds should be focused. And I see a question, do we need to have a physical location in King County? Great question. No, your business needs to be licensed in King County, but you do not have to have a physical location.
Ariana,
And
I think there were some questions in the Q&A too.
oh, great. Oh, I do. I see the red notification bubble. Worded overall. Um, okay, so grant fund capacity building sustainability. How does the grant define capacity building sustainability? Um, they're not deeply defined, and that is a bit intentionally. There's right having a focus, but then also allowing it to be a little bit broad, and that's just because we know that the needs of small businesses are very broad and varied. Um, so capacity building, so that could be like strengthening your organization's ability to do more work, take on more work, maybe like potentially bring on additional folks. So anything that kind of improves your business's ability to do work better, or do more work, or improve your processes. For sustainability, again, broad, that could be in environmental sustainability, financial sustainability, social impact sustainability. So hopefully that answers your questions. The categories are a bit broad, and if folks have you need more like specific examples, I'd be happy to provide that as well. Oh, I did see that. But yeah, so intentionally meant to be broad. So it's really just about drawing a connection back to those, if that makes sense. We didn't want to limit it too much to where it was so focused that it couldn't meet the needs of businesses and where they were at, but also make sure there was some direction in the focus areas and how these funds would be applied to businesses. Total amount awarded overall. Will nonprofits be looked at differently or the same as businesses? And then Helen, if hopefully this will answer, but if you're able to provide some additional clarification, but in terms of applicants, nonprofits won't be looked at any differently than like an LLC or another small business that applies. We're just going to be looking for that they're licensed in King County and that they are a small business defined as having fewer than 50 employees. Is it possible to apply for 15K but be awarded less? Yes, that is possible. That you could request up to 15,000 but may not get awarded the full amount. Okay. And I think okay. Decent word count. Okay, so we got a question. So decent word count or number of paragraphs and answers for the statement questions. I wouldn't worry so much about having it be a certain length. These are going to go to the evaluation committee, so succinct is preferred. Less on the novel side, more on the succinct. But really, it's just about answering the question and drawing the connection. So if you can do that in a couple of sentences, that's great. If it takes you a couple of paragraphs, that's totally fine too. I didn't put a limit, which if someone hits a limit, there should not be a defined limit. But if someone hits a limit on the amount that you can put in there, let me know. But I didn't set a limit on the amount of information that you could put in there because I wanted to be sensitive to the fact that folks may feel like they need to provide more or less explanation. So really just evaluating if it answered the question. But there's no preferred amount of paragraphs or word count, but I would say just for the evaluation committee, there's a preference for succinctness. Okay. Then I'll flip back to the chat. Okay, awesome. Hopefully I didn't miss any. Anna, if you see any that I missed, will you let me know?
For sure.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we got him.
Oh, there's a new one right now.
Okay. Oh, I do see this. Okay. And you guys are welcome to come off mute if you want as well. You don't have to, but. Great question. So are there multiple grant opportunities and is it okay to apply to more than one? So for our small business investment grant, it'll be one application. We're not having folks apply multiple times. So you'll apply once. And albeit if we open up another round of grants, and we're working through some of the specifics of that, but if we open up another round of grants, folks who've applied for the previous, especially if they weren't awarded, are of course encouraged to apply for a second round if we do that. And then if folks have been awarded and do apply, there will be a preference for folks who have not yet been awarded funds. If you come across like other opportunities under this funding that aren't related to us, there's no issue in applying for those. And then any of our future supports that are coming out, you're not limited to getting access to those if you've applied and been like awarded a grant. So applying for this grant, potentially getting awarded for this grant doesn't exclude you from future opportunities. So hopefully I answered your question, Jenny. And if you need more clarification, let me know. Okay. There's a set of questions in the application here that says they're optional and won't be counted towards application scoring. And they are entirely optional. They're helpful and we are deeply appreciative of them. But we also know that your time is valuable. And especially if you're a small business owner doing a lot of the small business thing yourself, you may not have a lot of capacity. So if you don't have the capacity or opportunity to answer these questions or answer all of them, that's okay. They don't count towards anything. They don't count towards your scoring guide, and they won't be included in the application that the evaluation committee reviews. And I see a new one. Great question. So yes, I will. I got another great question about just some of the supports that will go along with the financial supports for folks who are awarded the grant. So yes, I will work through the rest of the application, then I will answer that question for you, Tiara. So outside of the optional questions, once you're done with those, if you choose to answer them, then there's a section for application files. So this is where you're going to upload your business license, W-9, as well as the completed budget template. And there is an other section here. So if you feel like you have any other supportive material that you would like to be considered in your application, you are welcome to submit that there. And part of what we're doing in our review process is looking for, at least for our team, looking for completeness of applications, and that we can access the application files, right? So however they were uploaded, that we can access them. That is kind of the extent of the application review that our team is doing before it goes to the evaluation committee, just from a time and equity perspective. I have gotten some questions from folks about wanting kind of a deeper layer of support around looking at like their actual responses, kind of getting that second opinion on if they feel like it's a quality application. So if you need those kinds of supports, I've been collecting a bit of a resource list, so to speak, of local organizations who offer those kinds of supports or are likely to offer those kinds of supports. So if you feel like you need more than just the, hey, was it uploaded? Can you access everything? Please send me an email and I am happy to forward on the resources that I've come across. And then if anyone who's applying or anyone on this call comes across any great resources in terms of, this kind of grant application support, please let me know, because then I will further get out that information to anyone who's requested that kind of support. And then the last section is just certification and acknowledgments. So just that the information, is true to the best of your knowledge, that you're authorized to submit this application for the business, and understanding that if you're awarded funds, that you will get some additional support in the form of coaching, consulting, and or those resource connections. And then also that you'll be asked to share data regarding the impact of these funds, which might be collected in the form of like a survey, interviews, and or success stories. We're asking folks who are awarded funds to submit kind of like an impact or success story. Again, nothing crazy lengthy, no novels, but just a bit of a narrative and understanding of like how the funds were used and what was beneficial about them. And then there will also be a requirement to, once purchases for activities and equipment or however the funds are being used are made, a completed budget will need to be submitted along with a narrative, as well as any kind of like receipts or proof of payment, so that we can show that what the funds were requested for is what they were actually used for. And we'll be working with awardees to, in that process and making sure the correct information gets in. So then this should populate, but it doesn't. If you hover over, you can see it, but then the name of the authorized representative who's doing the application. So you'll do your title, first name, last name, sign and date. And then you can either save if you need to come back to it or hit submit. And then that will submit your application. And I see a couple more in here. Great question. So is the grant awarded in full or in reimbursements? So the grant will be awarded. So once applications are reviewed, approved by the application committee, it's gone through the whole process, then whatever that awarded amount is, so it could be whatever up to the full amount you requested, possibly less, whatever that full amount, whatever that award amount is, will get dispersed to the awardee in the form of direct deposit. So it's not a reimbursement like where you need to make the purchase and then submit receipts and then get the reimbursement. You do just get the grant amount that was awarded to you. And then on the back end, there's some follow-up, right, with that completed budget, the narrative, receipts, proof of purchase, those kinds of things to show that funds were used for the reasons that were approved in the application. So there's a statement or a question about, can you explain a little bit more about this and the time commitment involved for the additional services and support? So like coaching, consulting, and our resource connections. So yes, so should not be a huge time commitment. What we're doing right now is looking to bring on a couple of organizations who are going to provide basically some implementation support with funds. So assisting folks with ideally, and some of this is still getting worked out, but like a risk and needs assessments just in how the funds will be implemented. And then some of that coaching and support. So maybe it's resource connections, maybe it's talking through some of it, getting connected to other resources in the community, and then assisting with some of that paperwork piece of it, right? Like making sure that the completed budget comes back, the narrative comes back, that we have all the receipts and proof of purchases that we need. So it shouldn't be a huge time commitment. Each awardee is only going to be allotted a few hours, but it's really meant to be that implementation support to kind of help with the long-term sustainability and success of the business, and then the use of the funds. But it's not like a whole program or some like overly aggressive time commitment. It's just meant to be an extra support in supporting the implementation of these funds. So hopefully that answers your question. And there's a bit of vagueness right there because we're still working out some of the specifics around it, but that's sort of the general sense of it. And I see a hand raised. I see Kim.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Great. I had a question about the business license in terms of whether or not a non-for-profit will have a business license, and how do I navigate that? Should I just order one, even though that we don't fit any of the criteria, the services we offer?
So for the I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So it's just getting like a copy of like the business license to upload for your organization. Like, do you have like your nonprofit registration status, like your 501c3?
Yes, we have
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we can use that instead.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Nope. That's perfect. And then it just want to shows that your nonprofit is that nonprofit certification is for King County or a city in King County, right? And then I think was there a second part to your question?
No, you answered
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you clarify? Did you just say that instead of a business license, a nonprofit can provide their EIN, proof of EIN?
Yeah, so like the 501c3, like that proof of like your nonprofit and like where that nonprofit is like housed and licensed. Yes, you should be able to use that. And if there's any follow-up that I need for applications that are submitted, but what we're looking to see is that you have a registered business or nonprofit, and that it is licensed or tied to King County or a city in King County.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Rita.
Can you review the budget sheet again?
Sure.
Can you pull that up and just walk us through what's to be included to support our request?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see a question in the chat. So what are the reporting requirements for this grant? The reporting requirements are going to be mostly what I outlined in here. So once funds are awarded, and that those activities or those purchases have been made, then we're going to need the completed budget template, the narrative that goes along with that. We'll be looking for some sort of like success or impact story, and again, not a novel. Hey, this is what we did with the funds, and this was our experience with them. And then of course any receipts or like proof that funds were used for what was approved in the application. So if it's equipment purchases, that's easy. That's the receipt. If it was maybe training for your staff, if it's, wages, then we can look at like pay stubs or something like that. So just some sort of proof of how the funds were used. But that should be the bulk of what's going to be required for folks who are awarded the grant. And let me know if you need additional clarification on that or if that didn't answer your question. So I will open up our budget template. If it wants to cooperate. Oh no. Okay, all right. Pause. Okay. Do we see we show in Excel with like the workforce development logo right here?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. It's always fun when all the windows go all over the place. So it's not anything crazy. This is the budget template. So you'll just put in your business organization name, and then there's some, broad categories for the use of funds that fall into those focus areas, and then like further clarify them a little bit, and then the amount that you request, and then a description of the funds and that tie into the focus area. The question has come up, like, does it all need to be for one? Like if I have supplies or equipment I need, is that where the full requested, if I request up to 15,000, does it all need to be in one of these categories? And the answer is no. You can spread it out. So you may have a budget template where, maybe you're looking at putting some towards like salaries or benefits. So you would put in the amount, and then provide that description of the funds, and then the focus area that it ties into. Maybe you need some updated technology or IT to, improve some of your capacity building, or improve operations so you can bring on more staff, retain your staff. I mean, there's a lot of different connections that can be made between the focus areas and workforce development. And then if it doesn't, fall into one of these broader categories, then you can just use one of the other tables here and then describe, put in a description that would give us a good idea of what it is, and then the amount requested. Would this count as income for a business, and can we include overhead and taxes in the budget? Great question. Let me follow up with our finance team for in terms of like reportable income. Like, yes, that's why we have folks fill out a W-9, because it would be right, like income for your business. Can we include the overhead and taxes in the budget? I mean, if it's something like an equipment purchase, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I would try and get that full amount. So whatever it is, plus the taxes, so the full cost associated with that. Let me get, just because I don't want to misspeak, some clarification around like overhead and taxes in the budget. And if you can, is that specific to like an equipment or training cost, or are you talking more specifically around like wages or internships or something like that?
Yeah, I could hop in. Yeah, it's mostly for wages. So if say I was awarded the 15,000 in my business taxes, I would owe income taxes on those 15,000, right? So am I able to build that into the budget, or is that coming out of my pocket?
Great question. I don't want to misspeak, so I will get clarification, and I will reach out to you directly, and then we'll also, because it's a good question, we'll also update on the facts section of the website and download. So great question.
Right, thank you.
Rita.
Yeah, if you have 1099 support or people, what
Mhm.
category does that go in on this budget? They're not, because I saw a note that said you don't put contractors or something in salaries and benefits. Where is that placed?
Yeah, I in the application I wouldn't put them as an employee, but I think if you wanted to loop it under salaries and benefits, you could. Or I would just create like another you could add in your category here and put like contractor or contracted services, or depending on like what specifically they assist with, like maybe they work maybe they're tied to some of like your tech or IT, um or some of your more like administrative functions. You could kind of put it in any of the put in the most relevant category, and then if you feel like it doesn't really capture it, you can just add in one into the other section and then just provide some explanation.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
There was an additional question in the Q&A too, I think.
Oh, thank you. Oh, great question. So the question was, will the decision makers be aware of our other community reinvestment project applications? For example, the community healer grant, which is through Commerce. Can we request the same thing in this grant as we have? So this grant is specific to us. Like we're not working on that community healer grant. So there's decision makers or like our evaluation committee won't be aware of any of the other applications that you're putting in. And so yeah, if you're requesting in a different grant or you're requesting in this grant, they're not tied to each other at all. So that's fine. Rita, did you have another question?
No, I'm sorry. I'll lower my hand.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. I just want to make sure. Okay, make sure I'm not missing any other ones here. Perfect. Yeah, and great questions today too. There is, I don't think, in terms of here, I don't have anything else on my slide deck specifically. Oops, if I do this and change the display. There we go. Okay. I'll just pull it back to the end here. Go. And I'm just going to do a double check here. So, and thank you for putting the questions in the chat too, and in the Q&A. That's extremely helpful for us as we kind of like track, monitor, and then make sure that we get them all addressed.
My hand is up for another question for you.
Okay, yes, go for it.
So, in reading the proposal, I know that you have all these documents, but it also said that the awardee would have consulting, other resource kind of support available to them. And I two questions. One, I assume that's for the awardee, and what types of services are included in those non-funded items that were listed?
For the support and like resource connections.
Yes.
Great question. Some of it is the finer details are still being worked out a little bit, but really it's meant to be some implementation support. So right now, the way we're looking to structure it is once folks are awarded, they're going to get connected with an organization that is skilled in this work, essentially, so assisting small businesses, and then getting them connected to do ideally a bit of like a needs and risk assessment. So looking at how you're looking to use the funds, are there any risks that we want to think about, any additional needs that you're going to have, and then using that information as well as anything that else that comes up to get you connected to any other like appropriate resources or supports. But it's not a huge time investment. Like we're looking at these organizations spending, probably just up to a handful of hours, up to like 5 hours or so, being available to work with folks on these things, and then supporting with the like reporting requirements as well, right? So making sure that we have our receipts and the narrative and the final budget template and everything like that. And then whether you're awarded or not awarded, folks are also going to get connected to our worksource services. So there are services that we have related to I mean, if you want to participate in hiring fairs or getting a job posting up, or if you're looking for an intern or supporting maybe like a training grant for your staff, or like getting reimbursed for some of the things, we have supports outside of this particular opportunity. So we're looking to get folks connected with those workforce supports as well, just to see if there's anything else that would be helpful to you in your business now or later, whether you're awarded or not. And then any other resources we come across that are helpful and supportive to businesses, we're going to be doing our best to get folks connected, again, awarded or non-awarded, but that specific support with the coaching, consulting, and or resource connection, that will be for awardees. And I apologize, some of that's vague. We're just working out some of the finer details on it, but that's the general idea.
Is
Thank you.
is it the case that if an application of funds that one submits is closely aligned with some of those other support services that are available or could be available, does that make that request less likely to be awarded because because you have other resources that could be directed at that organization?
Great question. And no, so the applications will get reviewed entirely independent of any other resources or supports that we have, because we do have more flexibility with this funding. And what we'll look to do is for folks that have requests that are aligned with some of those other supports that we'll be launching or ones that are already in place, we'll just be looking to get folks, whether they're awarded or not, connected with that. For long-term support. So even if you got like awarded a grant now and used it to have provide like a paid internship opportunity, I mean, that's something that we offer as a workforce service outside of this. So it won't make your application any less desirable. And if anything, we'll just want to help you get connected with that team if it's something that you want to continue to offer, so that you can continually provide that and have that support. So even if it's aligned to existing services, it doesn't damper your application or cause it to score. All the scoring will be done based off that scoring guide. So if it's not on the scoring guide, there aren't going to be any outside considerations, like if you're applying for other funding or if you could get this support or a similar support through something else that's being offered. And I know that we're at time, so I do want to honor everyone's time, and say thank you so much for. And I guess I can probably stop sharing. Thank you so much for being here today and for spending this hour with us. I know that there were a couple of questions that I didn't get to, so I am going to be following up with folks. If you have additional questions, or I mean, what always happens to me is I hop off a call and then I immediately think of something. Please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have or find the answer if I don't. And then anyone's question that I didn't get to, or if I said I would provide more additional information, I will be following up with you. And then again, getting the answers to those questions updated on the website and the fact page. So thank y'all so much for spending some time with us today.